Okay, today I'm going to be doing a short interview with my dad, Richard Moran. He is recently retired, so I'm going to be interviewing him about his retirement lifestyle. So can you tell me about yourself?
Well, I've just recently retired. I grew up in the little town of Frazeysburg. It was a small town only about 8 miles from here. A little town of about 800. We lived on the corner right next to two schools. Actually, there was one school, the old Frazeysburg High School, was on one side of the house, and behind the house, behind the garden, the elementary school was there. So I went to school at those two schools the first 9 years, and then the districts consolidated and they made Tri-Valley. So from sophomore on, I got on the bus right next to the house, drove 10 miles to school, and I went there all the way through high school. After high school, I went to college at OUZ in Zanesville for 2 years, and later on I went to Hobart Welding School in Troy, Ohio for 5 months. I've got two brothers, one older, one younger. I was in the middle. There's about 3 years between each of us. Older brother's name's Steve, the younger brother name is Bob. My dad worked for an oil company, and Mom didn't have a job outside the house. She was a housewife. She stayed at home. And let's see, I moved out of the house when I was 21 and got a job for AEP and worked there my entire life. After I was married, we have 3 kids, 2 girls and 1 boy. Ashley's the oldest girl, Hillary's the youngest, and then our youngest child is Dean. He's 13 now. And I just recently retired, so
Okay. And you worked at AEP in Conesville for how many years?
42.
Okay, that's a long time. And what was your job title?
I was a welder on the maintenance department. I had a 4-year apprenticeship for mechanical maintenance. We worked part-time, went to school part-time, and then later on, like I mentioned before, I went to Hobart Welding School. The company sent me out there with several other guys, and so then when I come back from school, I welded most of the time, and when there wasn't much welding work, we done mechanical maintenance work.
Okay. And did you enjoy working at AEP as a welder?
Yes, I did. It was a good place to work. It was a hard job a lot of times, and it was very hot, and because it was a coal-fired power plant, so it's dirty from burning coals, a lot of coal dust. But I enjoyed it. It was a good place to work.
What were the typical tasks that you would do during the day?
Well, being on maintenance, we fixed anything from a broken hinge on a door to boiler tubes to just anything and everything. Changed valves, welded new piping, fixed pumps, just anything that needed repaired.
Can you describe some of the changes that you witnessed at AEP over the 42 years that you were there?
There was a lot of changes. The plant grew physically, size-wise. They added 3 additional units from the time I started. There were originally 3 units. They built 3 more. But during the years I was there, they ended up closing 3 of the older ones, and the 3 newer ones are still operational. Originally there was about, I think, 300 people. By the time they completed all the new units, they hired more people, so there ended up being 620 employees. And then by the time I left, it was down to 150. So it went up and down. during that period. But there was a lot of safety changes and a lot of regulations happened while I was working there. A lot of new safety equipment was required and mandated that you wear, and sometimes it was almost too much. Some of them were good and some of them were kind of overkill, but you had to do it. You didn't have any choice. I mean, everything from safety glasses to goggles to respirators and earplugs, and we had all kinds of hard hats, and had to have fire-resistant clothing, and there was all kinds of things that we had to do.
Were there environmental changes that you saw for pollution control or anything like that?
Yes, the EPA has enacted all kinds of environmental regulations, and they've spent hundreds of millions of dollars on upgrades and trying to meet the new environmental pollution controls. But about 3 years ago, I know they spent $450 million on a new smokestack and scrubber unit for a unit that was already 35 years old, which was a tremendous amount of money to spend on an old unit. And with new regulations that they're thinking of enacting at any time, they may have to shut them down. So only 3 years old, and they still may have to close the unit. So it's pretty tough business for a company to be in right now, because there's more and more and more regulations, and the new regulations they're asking for, there's no I don't think there's anything that's available on the market that you can actually install to meet those new regulations. So the plant could very well close at any time.
Yeah, it sounds like there's going to be a lot more changes. How long have you been retired now?
I've only been retired about 2 months.
Okay. And what made you decide to retire?
I was planning on retiring this coming January when I turned 62. At that time I could get Social Security. But the company, to try to be more profitable, decided they wanted to have a reduction in forces, so they wanted to reduce the work complement by 50 people, so they offered a early retirement severance package. So I went ahead and retired 7 months early because it was financially beneficial to me to do it.
Okay. And could you describe your routine when you used to go to work and compare it to what your routine is now?
Well, it used to be I would get up around 6 o'clock and leave home by about 6:20 to go to work, which was about the same time the kids were getting on the school bus. And it's only a 6-mile drive to work, and so I'd get to work at about 20 till 6 or 20 till 7, and then get on my work boots and get my hard hat and safety stuff out of my locker, and then go to the shop and where we get our jobs, and then it's the same routine. We'd get our jobs and then take a short break about 9 o'clock, and we ate lunch at 11:30 to 12. Another short break in the afternoon, and our quitting time was 3:30, so we took a shower about 25 after 3, and then come home, and I'd get home around 5 to 4, somewhere around there, and we'd eat dinner usually around 4:30 by the time the kids got off the school bus, and after dinner go outside and do some work in the garage or in the yard or outside work, and then in the evening we'd watch a little TV and take it easy, and then go to bed anywhere from 10:30 to 11:30. And now that I'm retired, I don't have a fixed schedule yet. and probably won't. But we sleep in more. The kids are, well, Hillary's still in school, but Dean is out of school for the summer, so we're in the school bus there at 6:20, and we sleep in anywhere from 7 o'clock till 8:30, just depends, and the rest of the day you can kind of wing it as you go. I haven't been retired long enough to really get a schedule going yet.
And what kind of projects are you working on to keep you busy?
Oh, just some projects that I've put off for years because I've never had time. I've started a few. I built a tree house behind the house by the playground for the kids, and I've been working on metal handrail on some steps for it, and for a fun project I built a stainless steel bird, and it's a heron that took about between 20 and 25 hours to complete, and I finally got it done and hung it up in a tree in the front yard. So been mowing the fields with the farm tractor and mowing the yard.
Sounds like all kinds of projects, yeah. Do you find yourself procrastinating more now that you have free time and can do it tomorrow?
I wouldn't say that I procrastinate, but there's more time available to do things, so you can just pick a project out and work on it for that day, or you don't have a time constraint where you have to hurry and get it done before dark, or I find that it takes longer to do stuff because you don't have to hurry, which is nice.
Okay. And how has being retired affected your family life?
Well, being around the house more, you know more what's going on during the daytime, and you see what everyone's doing more. I mean, I knew what they were doing, but now I get to witness it, I guess, and see it, which is, this being the summer, it's not the normal schedule, it's kind of the off-season schedule, I guess.
And would you say life is less stressful now that you're retired?
Yes, I'd say it is, because things are slower and you don't have as many things you have to do each day that have to be done, or you have to go somewhere and only have so much time to do it. So
more flexible.
I'd say, yeah, it's more flexible and less stressful.
And has retirement affected your social life at all? Do you still get to see the people that you used to work with?
No, I haven't seen the people that I work with very much. I've talked to some of them on the phone, but not much. So it's all new to all of us. So we're still trying to get schedules. I do miss visiting with people I worked with after working with the same people for over 40 years. You do miss seeing them every day, and we played cards at lunchtime and dabbled each other and joked around. So yeah, I miss some of the people I work with.
And would you ever consider going back to work at AEP or for a different company?
No, I really don't want another full-time job. But I would maybe eventually do something part-time, especially I've thought about doing some welding for people out of my garage, so it would be ideal if they'd bring work to me here at the garage and I could stay home and work here from the house.
And what are your future plans?
Well, I want to be able to keep busy. Being retired, you have to come up with things to keep yourself occupied, but there's a lot of projects I put off for years and years because there was never time. So eventually I suppose I'll get most of those done, but I want to try some other things. I always wanted to do some rock carving, and I never had time to do that, so I want to try some of that, and if I have to, I'll do some volunteering or whatever to keep busy.
Okay. Thanks for letting me interview you.
You're welcome.
Okay. I chose to interview my dad because he was ready and willing, and he was pretty much a good candidate for interviewing because he has just retired, so I had a good topic to discuss with him. I used the probing interview style because I was able to gain pertinent information in a short time. I felt it was the most appropriate interviewing style to use. I phrased the initial questions to indicate familiarity with the area that I was discussing with him. The second question I asked him was, "You've worked at AAP for over 40 years, is that correct?" Because I had already known that he'd worked there for 42 years, but I wanted to use that to show that I have done my research. I opened the interview with an icebreaker question and just asked him something general and basic, such as, tell me about yourself. He could have taken that any way he wanted, so that gave him a chance to go into whatever aspect of his life that he wanted to talk about. In the body, I just used that to gather information. I tried to answer the questions who, what, where, when, why, and how. And then the closing, I ended with another general question, such as, tell me about your future, just to kind of bring it back around as in a circle to end it. I felt that was appropriate. He could have taken that pretty much any way he wanted to. And then I tried to create a level of trust while preparing for the interview with him. I wanted to create a level of comfort so that he wasn't awkward throughout the whole interview. And I tried to use nudging probes that encouraged him to continue. When we were talking about the different aspects that have changed at AAP over the 40 years he's been there, he was talking about safety, and I encouraged him with a nudging probe to talk about maybe environmental issues that have changed throughout the time he's been there. And I tried to make questions as brief and relevant and as possible. And I tried to create a clearly stated question to make it more simple and easy for him to answer. And I tried to be as patient as possible. He is not a very good interviewer. I found out the hard way. But I tried to be as patient as I could throughout. And we went through it to practice before we had filmed it. And, you know, once he realized that you wouldn't be grading him, you were grading my interviewing skills, he, you know, got more comfortable and was like, okay, I can just, you know, breeze through this and really think about whatever question I was asking. It wasn't really about whatever his answer was. It was just the questions that I was asking. Overall, I felt it went pretty well. I would have asked more questions about, like, the financial area, like how much more he got by retiring early, but I didn't want to pry into that if he wasn't really comfortable with that, and I didn't want to make it awkward or, you know, disrupt any kind of personal aspect that he didn't want to talk about. And I wish I would have used, like, more silent pauses, maybe, to encourage him to talk more. I think that might have worked, but maybe in the next one. But overall, I felt it went pretty well.